my point is that there are still lots of things that you can do as smaller businesses without having to do that at this stage. That's one of the first things people think of, oh, we'll have to have a creche. And when you can afford to do that, I think that's spot on, you should. But there are simple time flexibilities, other things that you can put into your contract, into your working relationships and agreements as a small business, which will make your business one that will appeal to the best out there as well. So thank you so much for sharing. Yes?
I think obviously here the majority are women, but obviously there's also, when building a family, it's a question of having a male and a female. It takes two to tango, as it goes. I think whenever you're actually building a family and have a business, irrespective of whether you're an employer or an employee, it's a question of coming to a certain compromise. Let's start from the employer itself. Although in this room there are very few of flexibility, a flexibility coming, offering an opportunity to her employees. Otherwise they wouldn't have grown. It would be losing resources and even creating a situation of a hemorrhage. Today, that is a well-recognized situation that a number of women can contribute very much to the actual business community. However, for various reasons, they were hindered. However, today I believe, even from an educational perspective, things are changing. You have e-learning, you have educational programs via correspondence, you have a number of things. But ultimately, you've mentioned contracts and to include. It all trickles down to a very simple element, to an element of understanding. You can have a number of contracts, you can have a number of things. Ultimately, it's that non-written contract which will make things go. If you work by the book, you will have by the book. However, if there's an element of flexibility, that will make your business go ahead. You've mentioned an incident out there, who I'm the guy who actually takes my wife to work. But it's a question where we do it because my wife has found a business, which is a very small business, where they were ready to accept a number of things because they need her resources. One of them was to offer her the possibility of having a nanny coming home. It was not possible. So they offered the second option, which was actually to take the child to work, which is something different, something which for two people who are actually over 70 years of age, it was the last people I would have expected it to happen. But it's happening, and thank God that has created. On the other hand, there's an element of flexibility even from my stance, because if at work they would be working on a very rigid agenda, I would not be possible to take my wife, drop her to Valletta, take her up 4 stories, and actually give her the possibility to be there at work. I'm mentioning my example because I've just a 10-month-old baby, so I'm practically at a very, very, very critical time. But I believe it's something which reflects the whole world as such. I think that Anne mentioned a very important element, that women are no longer an issue. If today we want to have an element of victimization, ultimately, if one had to think about it, it will only take you 10 seconds to think. It will have a boomerang effect, because victimization then will create a number of problems. Let's take one instance. We live in an island which has 9/10 micro-business SMEs, of which over 95%, according to 2005 statistics, are micro-enterprises. What does this mean? A number of businesses turn into a family. We've been talking about it yesterday during a dinner, which turns into a closed environment, very familiar environment. A woman, for some reason whatsoever, ends up having to have maternity leave or any other required leave, which means there are 2 situations. Either the employer is flexible, or else there's another situation where he employs somebody else. But then there's a situation. Legislation at times, and Marlene mentioned it very, very intelligently both today and yesterday. There's a situation where women are claiming a number of rights. But interestingly enough, and Marlene well raised the issue, at times it's creating more problems. Because the more you're going to create rights, it's like we all have rights. It then will have a ripple effect when coming to select people. So at times there must be a median line, which at times we're not being able to stick to. And that is creating certain problems. And I think it also boils down to our educational level. At times we're coming out from university with a certain perception. We only have rights. We have a right to have this, we have a right to have this, when in reality, as it goes, it takes two to tango. So I think it's from a social aspect, from an educational aspect, but ultimately even from a family aspect. How much you are ready to sit down with your wife or your husband and say, listen, let's make it happen. Let's be flexible because both of us, it's in our interest to go ahead. If I'm being too rigid with my wife, it means there's a problem of salary because obviously we're not that happy to go and take that holiday, etc. It means that she has problems. It means I'm going back to work with a big headache because probably she's been grumbling. The same is on the other side. So I think this is the first step to go about, that it starts from home, then taking it from a social aspect, because it's like revolutions. It starts from the outside, affecting the inside. If you're able to do it at home level, then the wave will be so big that at a social level and at a governmental level, it will be inevitable for them to take certain decisions. Unless at a home level it's done, then it will never succeed.
I agree, but that boils down to communication. And this is why I talked about whether you have to talk. I agree, you have to talk with your family at home, with your wife, your spouse, your partner, about what do we need as a family. But you still have to talk with your employer, and your employer still needs to talk to the employees, because the family and the work environment are inseparable for the reasons that you've just shared. So unless we are aware of what we can do, and we're aware of what our needs are as a group of people trying to balance home and trying to balance business, unless we create that environment where people feel free to come and discuss the options and the possibilities, this change is not going to happen. The whole idea of being flexible and creating that family-friendly work environment is going to be different in terms of what each business can do, or is prepared to do, or is prepared to start. And I like what you shared there, because we had two different organizations that are affected by the one family. Yes? The husband works one place, the wife works another. So unless there's this whole economic culture of change, and that's the point I want us to realize that we can impact, unless that comes about, none of the things that people have so willingly shared today is ever going to happen. But it does start with us as individual mothers, fathers, and family owners. Okay, please.
My name is Julie Dvorak, Secretary General of MMM, Make Mothers Matter, for the European delegation. And I wanted to thank you very much for your intervention. I really appreciated it very much, especially your speech. I believe it included a lot of common sense, good common sense, that in our society we sometimes lack. Being part of MMM, I just wanted to share very quickly. Some of you may be aware, and some of you may not be aware, that there's a lot of effort being done at the European level to lobby for for 2014 to become the European Year of reconciling work and family lives. So this year, 2013, is the European Year of the Citizens. So the decision will be made by the European Commission very soon. And so there are different efforts that are alliances. There's the European Alliance that is led, of which we're part of, that is led by the COFACE, that is lobbying very much, and they're doing a written declaration just right now. And then there is also another alliance, which is led by the IFFD, which is a global organization that also has a status at the United Nations, because as you also may know, 2014 is going to be the 20th anniversary of the Year of the Family by the United Nations, and so one of the sub-themes is reconciling work-life balance. And so I wanted to use your enthusiasm, and if you want to share efforts, I mean, there's definitely some lobbying that can be done towards 2014 becoming the European Year of Reconciling Work and Family.
Thank you very much Thank you very much for sharing.